Hello again and welcome to the Master's Voice. I am Celestial and you are welcome to this channel. To old and new subscribers alike, you are very welcome. The Master's Voice is a prophetic resource that you can find at www.the-masters-voice.com. There's also audio and visual platforms where you're free to follow the Master's Voice and catch up on everything that you may not be familiar with. I have audio platforms on Spotify, SoundCloud, Google, and Apple Podcasts. There's Odyssey, there's Podtail, there's Listen Notes. There's also alternative channels on BitChute, Rumble, and Brighteon. These are video channels, and there's a much wider library. Rumble also recently introduced playlists after about 3 years of operation since 2021, I think. And so now you can find the same playlists that you would find here on TMV on YouTube. You can now find them on Rumble, but better yet, there you can find what I call the medical playlists. And that's where prophecies that had to do with COVID-19 and the mandates and everything else, the word that God was giving me real time as we were navigating that time period, and all the things he said that would come as a result of and the fallout of that. You can find all that on my Rumble, my BitChute, and my Brighteon channels. There are also social media channels. You can follow me on Facebook. You can follow me on TikTok. You can subscribe to my Instagram. And there's also a Telegram channel and now even Twitter. So there are quite a few places that you can follow, and you will either be getting short form content on the social media or the full videos here on the video channels. And so today I am going back to the prophecy for Kenya. I did say when I made the Kenya fulfillment video that the Lord had given me a 2-part prophecy for Kenya. And that 2-part prophecy can easily be learnt from by all other nations in Africa and any nation elsewhere, actually, because God is using Kenya as an example to show that we are in the time period where a new system is birthing itself. I've been speaking about that new system ever since I started the blog. There are so many written prophecies covering the rise of the new system, the beast system, sometimes referred to as the new world order, the one world order, whatever they might call it, covering the rise of that system and what it will entail. And to put it as simply as I can, the rise of the final system that is coming into the earth is very clearly documented in the Bible in 2 places, in Daniel chapter 7 and in Revelation 13. And by the grace of the Lord, we're going to look at both of those tonight. But to put it simply, in order for the new system to birth itself, the old system will have to die. Old nations will have to die. Old ways of doing things will have to die. There is no way for this new system that serves Satan, that centers Satan, that exalts Satan, and that bows to and obeys Satan to come into operation while including or tolerating a system in which you have, for instance, individual faith, Muslims, Christians, Baha'i, other faiths, in which you have individual nations, in which people can say, I'm a citizen of this nation. I belong to this country. My ethnicity is this. I carry this national ID card. I'm holding this passport. I belong here. I've naturalized here. This old way of doing things, having separate money, having separate borders and things like that, it is not going to be tolerated in the new system. And if Christians had been in their word as much, or if Christians had decent shepherds who loved them and cared about them and were loyal to God enough to prepare his sheep, then what we would not be having is this constant shock, this constant almost kind of donkey behavior where Christians have to be dragged into the understanding of the future because they reject it. It fights against their paradigm. It fights against their worldview. It fights against everything that they've ever heard from a pulpit. It also fights please hear me, it fights against the pride that is in the hearts of people, Christian or non-Christians, the hearts of people are actually very proud, actually very filled with patriotism, filled with nationalism. And so whether it's Kenya tonight who hears this prophecy, or it's Ghana, or it's Zimbabwe, or it's Eritrea, or it's a European nation, or the United States, New Zealand, or if it's Korea, Myanmar, wherever you're listening to, in India, it doesn't matter. Because of the bricks that are in the human heart, it is very, very hard for people to hear prophecy that basically tells them without stuttering that everything you know and everything that you love and everything that you cling to is going to be ended, summarily ended. Summarily means that it will be done in a one-sided manner. The ending of the nations as we know it is going to be done summarily by the powers that be, by the people who are sitting in office, and they'll not be doing it alone. They will be doing it on much higher orders that are being rammed down their throats with threats, with strong threats. Many presidents of countries will be told that you will implement this new system, or we will kill you, we will kill all that is precious to you, and then we will simply bring in a dummy, a replacement, and we will persecute the people even harder because you refused. So I covered that in the first of the two-part prophecy that I gave for Kenya. That prophecy was called The Fires of Revolution, Rise of the Beast System, and I gave that word, well, I received the word on June 28th, 2024. Can't exactly remember when I made the video, but it wasn't too long ago. You can still find it. And so if you're Kenyan and you're here and this is your first time and you are just landing, the first thing I would like to do is I would like to strongly caution you not to do what many Kenyans are currently doing. There are a lot of people, the way they speak about God, the way they speak to God's messengers, I can see that these people have not been taught properly, and I can also see that these people don't have fear of God. It is a tragedy how in the Church of Jesus Christ today, people don't have fear of God, meaning that they don't fear God, they don't fear God's messages, they don't fear the voice of God alive in the earth. They don't even fear or have any respect for the people that God has sovereignly selected to be his representatives and sent them out to the people. You just come here and you open your mouth and say anything, and all I do is observe, because I know from God, this is not from my wish, I know from God and I know from the word of God that there is a penalty resting upon those who do these things. So in April of 2023, Yah gave me a word, and that word was multi-layered. So it was dealing with different things. It was dealing with apostate nations. And in that prophecy, God was talking to Kenya. He was talking about the way that Kenya behaves, the current system of how Kenya operates in religion. The Lord was talking about apostasy. He was talking about those who are wicked and reprobate. And the individual that he focused on in that prophecy was Beyonce Knowles. And he was also talking about how, seeing as Kenya's president had just come into power, he was saying that this man was going to find that he had bitten off more than he could chew, and that he was soon going to be dealing with terrible backlash, economic problems, and terrible backlash from an angry public. So this word was given a year in advance of what is happening in Kenya now. However, when that word was given, and people do what they usually do, they cut the prophecies and they take them to various places. You know, if you hear a prophecy for your country, then what people usually do is they'll cut that clip and they'll put it on their Facebook, they'll put it on their TikTok, they carry it around. The response that people had towards that prophecy was extremely disrespectful to what God was saying. There's something that I'm just going to address here, specifically to the continent of Africa. I'm going to tell you the things that you do that will bring the wrath of God upon you. Because you have pastors who are so puffed up with pride, because you have pastors who have learned from the United States model of church building, which is that you need to gather a very, very, very big crowd of people who see you as a kind of big boss man. You can't just be a humble servant of the Lord who brings the word of God to the people, teaches the people, look after God's sheep. That's not enough. That's way too low class for most African pastors. They are not satisfied unless they have really big ministries. They see the apex of preaching. They see the pinnacle of having made it as a pastor. When they can have a multiplex like foreign pastors have, when they can have these massive auditoriums that boast modern accoutrements, a food area and a school and maybe a clinic or something like that, they have to model it after the way they see their demonic papas here doing it. When it's big, then it's better. When it's big, that means God is there. Then they stand on the pulpit because they've taken oaths, because they have covenants, and they begin to systematically and deliberately pollute the word of God that is flowing into the lives of the people. They preach very boastfully. And if you are honest, a true honest Christian who realizes that you have come to the place in your life where you're going to have to choose, you are going to find it very hard to say that you do not find the way African pastors preach to be boastful. They're extremely boastful. They look for the miracles of Jesus and they expand them and stretch them to the very last allowable place. And this is usually before they go into full-blown corruption, right? They will stretch it and magnify it in your eyes and paint God to be someone who, although nothing limits God, they will paint God to you as completely limitless, even against God's own will. So they will never preach trial to you as a method, for instance, that God can use to shape you. They will never preach suffering to you as a method that God can use to test and prepare you. David suffered. Joseph suffered. Moses suffered. Abraham suffered through the waiting that he went through, the anguish of wanting something. They will never teach you the patience of Abraham or the patience of David, two men who waited extraordinarily long times for God to prepare and perfect the promise that he had given them. Even Joseph waited an extraordinarily long time. And the Bible says actually that while Joseph was waiting, he was waiting in chains, and the word of God tested him, which means that as Joseph was going through his prison time period, it was his choice if he was going to disdain and trash the dreams that God had given him or not. They will never prepare you for the times of humbling that come to the church. They will never prepare you for the times when you will lose a parent, you will lose a job, you may even get sick and struggle with sickness and then not win. You may lose your life, but these pastors have no interest in making you a fully rounded out Christian. They simply preach victory to you, and they preach a very boastful victory. They teach the kind of victory that will tell you that when God judges a ministry and burns down the house of that ministry, that the answer you should raise up to heaven is actually the curse from Isaiah 9, that the trees have been cut down. The sycamores are cut down, but we will replace them with cedars. Imagine being a people so ignorant that you go and listen to a man repeating what God has sent to the United States as a curse. Anyone who's been watching this channel knows how many times I have read Isaiah chapter 9 in their hearing. That trees were cut down, but we're going to build up greater trees. Imagine that you don't know your Bible well enough and you're following a charlatan and a wizard telling you it's okay that the church burnt down. We're going to build a bigger and a better in this place. It's dangerous for you because when your heart becomes filled with leaven, what will happen is that God will send something looking very simple, the way he sent Jesus looking very simple. And then the people will say, what is this strange thing? This is how African people take these prophecies. Americans decide to run with unbelief, but Africans usually with these prophecies decide to go with mockery. South Africa did this and then they learned a lesson. Nigeria did this and then they learned a lesson. Both those nations received messages that all over social media, I was seeing the mockery, especially the Nigerians. I was seeing the mockery, and then God gave, especially Nigeria, a body blow that up to now, a full year later, they have not recovered it. Nigeria also has a president and a rogue government that they can't stand. So Kenya, you are actually 2 years late, because the Nigerian prophecy was in March of 2022 and they were eating it by December. They were eating it by the end of a very short time period. That's when the entire situation changed. That's when I went from a liar, keep your defiled prophecy at your house, then I suddenly turned into woman of God. What is the solution for us? Can you talk to God for us? If you are someone, you come across something, it's brand new, you don't understand what it is, the first thing out of your mouth is mockery. The first thing out of your mouth is unbelief. The first thing out of your mouth is to rebuke and reject what you don't understand. Bear in mind that when the Lord is ready to rebuke and reject you, you should keep the same energy that you have. And so that prophecy that was in 2023, April 2023, came true this year, just a little bit over a year. In 2024, Kenya has erupted, blood has been shed, the government has been chased, the youth are very angry, and the nation that God says is usually a very peaceful and thriving nation, their normal designation, is now in uproar and turmoil. And so the Lord gave two parts of a prophecy. The first part was called the fires of revolution. And just to briefly recap, in that dream, I said that I was standing on a very high place, and there was a plain in front of me and a valley below, and I wasn't paying attention to the valley because I was seeing terrible clouds brewing on the horizon, black and red, very dangerous looking, and I was looking at that, and then on top of me small sparks of fire began to fall, very, very small sparks, but extremely hot. And when they were falling on me, I was looking to cover myself. And I was also saying to the Lord, Lord, protect me from this fire. Lord, don't let this fire burn me. And then eventually the Lord sent a wind, and it blew those sparks from touching me, from trying to burn me. And then I focused my attention into the valley below, and I said that it was full of people. And the people were in a tumult. The people were upset. The people were roiling. The people were rushing back to and fro, and they were angry. And God was telling me that this is how fires of revolution are coming to all the nations. And then he gave a particular word for Kenya, and he said that Kenya will never be allowed to defeat the beast system. We will speak about the beast system later in this video, but he said that Kenya would not be allowed to have a permanent victory over the beast system, and Kenya would not be allowed to embarrass their government, because their government is the frontal face that the beast system, who is behind their government, is advancing against them as Kenyans. God says that for doing this, for striking back at the government that they elected, Kenyans will never be allowed to make this example of shaming the government, of scattering the government, of going to burn the parliament, the seat of where deliberations and lawmaking happens, for doing things like that, for chanting about the president, sending him death wishes, sending him threats that the young people were recording on their phones, that went out on international media, even for landing on the cover of major U.S. publications. God says for embarrassing the beast system like this, the beast system that they sent scattering into the streets will form a fist of oppression and strike back harder against them. They're fighting for their freedom, but they will not have it. No government that comes under the control of the beast system will ever allow its people to offend them like this. God was saying that the Kenyan government has masters, that the Kenyan government actually has a head that operates above the visible head, which is right now President William Ruto and his cabinet, his ministers, the control that he has over the government and everything else that forms the visible government. God says that that visible Kenyan government actually has masters, and that when they receive orders from their masters, when the head tells Kenya what to do, Kenya is going to do it. And God says that this fire that is burning in Kenya is coming to all nations. And indeed, those nations will erupt in revolution for a while, But eventually the fires will be put out, because the final rise of a system is coming to trample the residue. And soon, instead of people being allowed to protest, the Lord says that protests will be met with armed force and with police brutality beyond the norm. And when the shift goes from being allowed to protest, freedom of movement, freedom of assembly, freedom of speech, getting the attention of international places as you fight for your freedom in Venezuela or Portugal or wherever it will be, God says that it will turn to oppression until people will cry out from their woes. People will sob from what they're experiencing in Kenya. And then God listed the ways that the beast will establish itself in the nation of Kenya and other nations. You can just listen and you can learn. He said cunning, craft, magic, dialogue, witchcraft, seduction, artifice, manhandling, disinformation, and brute force will be how the beast system accomplishes its objectives. So you're welcome to go back to this prophecy because everything was explained in detail. Understand that you cannot reject what God is saying. You can say, I think it's aluta. You can say aluta until the cows come home. You can say aluta until you're blue in the face. What will happen is that the word of God will go into the ground, the spiritual ground, like a seed. It will establish itself there. It will put down roots. And then as the months go by, exactly as you saw from April 2023 until now, a year and some months later, when the seed is ready to bear the fruit that God says it will bear, you will just wake up one day as Kenyans and look and see what your government has said, see the new rules that are in place, see your Maisha card in place, find that laws have been signed, that the next time you have a baby, your baby will be assigned not just a number, but an electronic placement. And it will progress and progress and progress until, as you will hear, they will try to actually put markings on the human body. And that is not unique to Kenya, because I've been speaking about these things since 2020. I've been warning and warning and warning that the new system that is coming is not going to be satisfied with simply using our phones and using headsets and things like that and giving us AI and chat GPT. It's not going to be satisfied until it is connected to the body, because the devil knows that it is with this body that we connect to God, that we become children of God, that we become worshipers of God, and that we eventually enter into God's eternal rest. When we shed this body, please listen to me, okay? When you have been loyal in this body to God, that is how you qualify for the new body that will enter into God's kingdom. We will all be given the new body. There is no human being, even an atheist, even someone who is a devil worshiper, a Satanist. There's no person on earth who's going to die. And then even if the person doesn't die, even if the person is still alive at the coming of Christ, there's no person who's going to be able to transact in God's new kingdom in this old body. This body is what Apostle Paul called corruption. This body needs showers. We need to bathe it. We need to brush our teeth. Otherwise, it stinks. It stenches. It's not in its best position. This body is subject to corruption. It gets old. This body gets sick. This body can have broken bones. This is the corruptible body. That's why the Bible says we will put off corruptible, this flesh, and we will put on incorruptible. But the problem with incorruptible is this is the form in which we make choices. This is the form in which we make decisions. This is the form in which we decide that we will follow Jesus Christ all the days of our lives. No turning back, no turning back. Or we decide that everything is funny, everything is worthy of mockery, everything has to be ignored. Well, I'm just not into that, or I'm not even a Christian. The things that people come here and say about Jesus Christ when they are not Christian, the names that they call him, I know that those people will lack a tongue in the final times. It will be continually burning up in the lake of fire. They will not have a tongue to speak with. And so this is the body. Though it is weak in its own way, it has a great power, and that is the power to decide for Christ or against Christ. Once you get into your incorruptible body, there's no choices to be made. I always tell people, now is the time that you choose. Now is the time that you say all you want to say and do all you want to do. When you get into the incorruptible form, that is when God is going to say all he wants to say and do all he wants to do. You don't get to make choices in the incorruptible. When you are locked into that body that you will never be able to get out of because it cannot die, that is when God is going to make only one of two decisions. He will decide to receive you in his eternal kingdom for you to ever be with the Lord, or he will put you into the second death, which is the lake of fire, where the body that cannot die will burn and burn and burn and burn without being destroyed. You will be in an eternal cooking heat cycle. And what a way to end your days. All because when you were incorruptible, you could not make decisions that would earn you peace in the incorruptible. And so, when you hear these prophecies, sober yourself. Learn how to close your mouth and listen to what God is saying, and take it away to your little prayer place. Even if you're the most backslidden Christian, you can still go crawling back to God and try to put your life back in order through repentance, through seeking God, through remorse for the way that you have lived. And then you lift up these messages to God and say, Lord, I have heard these things. Please reveal to me by the Holy Spirit. Please reveal to me in your word. Please reveal to me by your discernment how to test this message, because I don't want to speak against something that is from you. I don't want to curse something that is from you, and I don't want to receive something that is not from you. This is what wise people do, but we are not many wise in these last days. And so that is the first prophecy. And then the second prophecy that God gave was just 2 days after. So the first one was June the 28th. That's already been made. The fulfillment prophecy for the April 2023 prophecy has already been made. And now we are looking at the second one, which is called The Revolution Will Be Televised, Rise of the Beast. The Revolution Will Be Televised, Rise of the Beast. And this is from June the 30th, 2024. So these are the words that the Lord was speaking to me in the very early morning, I guess you would call it the 4 a.m., 5 a.m. time. The Lord started speaking to me about Kenya. And remember, even though you're hearing it now in July, this was just 2 days after. So Kenya was seriously boiling at that time, seriously boiling. I was quietly shocked at the vehemence and at the strength and at the anger that was pouring out of that nation because of the, I think it's called the finance bill that was coming up from the government. And people said that it was just robbery of the ordinary man, and they were not having it. And so this is what God said to me long before the sun was up on June the 30th. He said, the revolution will be televised, but the win belongs to Ruto. The revolution will be televised, but the victory is the government's. Whether the visible head resigns or not, be warned, the beast is in the nation. The new head will simply do as it's told and carry out the agenda of the old one. Yours, Kenya, is a forfeit government. The beast system has arrived. You can never eject a cancer from your body once it has spread all over. I'm just going to read the whole thing, and then as I do, I will go back and bring you through the word. You can never eject a cancer from your body once it has spread all over. The time to get it out, the time to attack it and destroy it is in its infancy stages, when nothing is too serious there to remove. When the disease is just showing its signs, early warning, they call it, that's when you're supposed to fight and do your best to eradicate whatever you find as a sign of cancer in you. Being riddled with cancer is a death sentence. Being riddled with beast system technology is a sign that your cancer is too advanced. Kenya, your cancer is advanced, and you are trying to stop it. You will be successful in part, but not all the way. Nations are being lined up for beast system technology, and it is too late to start speaking of maybe and suppositions. It is too late for, if we wanted to, we could. If we revolt now, we'll win. It doesn't work like that. The beast is ready to reveal itself and to promote its own agenda. And the only nations and only nations that comply will be left in decency. Hold that word in your mind. The rest will be rocked with revolts that will be brutally crushed or sweetly infiltrated until at last the head falls separate from the body. The beast is able to divide and conquer or deceive and rule. But either way, the kingdom of Daniel's iron and clay is in motion. Soon, visible changes of societies will be taking place everywhere with more or less uniform results. Kingdoms will fall to the beast. Concessions will be made. In some cases, governments toppled. But at the end result will only be the kingdom of iron and clay beneath. And then this is what he said. The fourth beast was more terrible than all its fellows. The predecessor format of world governments is over. Prepare for the kingdom of the new world order. And so that is God's word to Kenya. The Lord is saying here in the beginning that the revolution will be televised, but the win belongs to President William Ruto. So this links right back to the first part of the prophecy that I've just explained to you. And what is that? Kenya right now, you are strongly against the president that you have. You are looking at him at the surface, seeing in him nothing that is reflective of what you want in terms of governance. This man seems to be completely separated from the Kenyan majority. He may have his supporters, whoever they may be, but he seems to be almost too distanced from the people that he's supposed to be governing. He seems to be out of touch, and he seems to be advancing an agenda that has nothing to do with what Kenyans want. But this is how you know that the beast system is operating in a country. And I gave this exact word to Nigeria in March of 2022. What God was saying is, to Nigeria, is that they were going to get a rogue government. And because the piece of prophecy that I had for them, for I am primarily sent to prophesy to America, because that piece of prophecy was so short, Nigeria thought that they could simply mock the prophecy and turn their back on it. People said things such as, we've always had a rogue government. It's nothing new for us. But they didn't understand that when God was saying rogue, he literally means a government that will utterly depart all things Nigerian to be able to start acting almost as if it was a government supporting a completely different people who are not Nigerians. The Nigerian government began to put through policies that grossly disenfranchised its people. People lost their lives in that rogue move of the sudden devaluation and the sudden change of the currency. God told Nigeria that they were going to have economic turmoil and rogue government. He told them that the black horse was going to ride in their nation. Did any Nigerians go to look in Revelation chapter 6 and see what the black horse is? The black horse is sudden and shocking economic downturn. It's when the prices shift suddenly. It's when the currency begins to do flip-flops. It's when you don't have economic stability anymore and you suddenly don't know where your next meal is coming from. People heard a prophecy and they mocked it instead of going like the Bereans to look in their Bible and to spend time in the scriptures and ask themselves, what is the black horse and what does it mean? And so the Nigerian government completely departed from backing up Nigerian wills, Nigerian agendas, what Nigerians wanted. Even their election did not return them the result that the majority wanted. And so they were stuck with something that does not reflect their face. They became extremely upset, and they're still dealing with it to this day. And now, Kenya, it's simply your turn, but you believe that you are stronger than the Bible. The Bible is older than the nation of Kenya, but Kenya believes that it's stronger than Revelation 13. And that is because the people have been taught by snakes who give them the impression that their hearts can lift up, and all they need to do to defeat a prophecy and say, I rebuke it. We rebuke it. You are an agent of Satan. This is what they're saying to me. Not all of them, but the vast majority who do not have the understanding of what is afoot. And so God is saying that you can televise the revolution, which means As you're rioting, as you're angry, as you're burning stuff, as you're running in the streets, as you're shouting slogans, as you're doing everything and causing the nation to basically come to a halt for close to 2 weeks now or 3 weeks now, God says that the win belongs to Ruto. Does the win belong to him because he's special? What makes him different from any other president? William Ruto is the first visible face that you've probably ever had of a man openly being controlled by the beast system. Is this to say that Kenya hasn't had Western masters in the past? Of course it has. Of course it has. It is very rare to find an autonomous African nation. All the money, all the policies, the inflow of wealth, the decision of who will sit at the top, all these things are decided in Washington, D.C. Power doesn't change hands until America says so. I'm not speaking this from a point of arrogance. I'm speaking this from a point of God having revealed where the seat of the beast has been operating in relative silence for decades. The only reason now that there are public clashes is because the beast is ready to come out. And as the beast is coming out, the beast is finding world governments sitting in its seat. And the world governments have always had their job to represent the people who are in these nations. And so the people are beginning to take their governments to task and say, what are you doing? Why are you behaving in this way? What's wrong with you? This is not why we voted you in. You're acting crazy and we're going to kick you out. So while this process is taking place, God says that the win belongs to William Ruto, not because William Ruto is special in and of himself. William Ruto is a velvet glove on top of a crushing iron fist that I'm going to talk to you about later. And so just as you heard in the first part of the prophecy, God is saying that the government will strike back. As Kenya struck, as the people struck, the government will strike back even harder, for it has vested interests offshore who will see to it that Kenya becomes an AI mechanized member of the future beast society. And so what God is basically telling you is that this man has invisible power on his side that you don't have. What you have is God. And that would be brilliant if God didn't have his word that says that this thing must be. This thing has to be. It has to happen. It has to come to pass. I've been here for 5 years and America is still struggling to accept that she will not exist. She is still struggling to accept that even as Kenya gets a seat in the beast system, this America is not going to continue in the end times. Because you've never heard me prophesy that anyone else will be nuked from the face of this earth and have their continent sink to the bottom of the sea because of God's rage. I've never said that against Nicaragua. I've never said that against Russia itself. God has never given me a prophecy like that for China. But America definitely will not have a seat at this table, even though the United States itself will be the center point of the beast system. It will be the center point of the system, but America, the nation, will not be here. She will be completely killed off in order for the beast to live. And so God says the revolution will be televised, but the victory is the government's. This is almost like biblical cadence. It will say, for 3 abominations and for 4, the Lord will do this and this and this. For 3 abominations and for 4, the Lord will do this and this and this. Even in this Isaiah 9 that I've mentioned, over and over a phrase keeps repeating. For all that, my hand is stretched out still. For all that, my hand is stretched out still. Which means, I have judged you at this level, but I'm not done. I will still reach out my hand to judge you further. And then God will name more judgments in Isaiah 9, and then he will say, for all that, my hand is stretched out still. Which means, I'm going to judge you level by level by level until my fury is appeased. So this is the way the Lord speaks. Revolution will be televised, but the win belongs to Ruto. This is one man. Now he expands it. The revolution will be televised, but the victory is the government's. So William Ruto is not the government. He is one man at the head, the visible head of the government. But now God is telling you that if Ruto stands like this as a stalk, beneath him are the roots, the entire government. So God is telling you, yes, there's a visible head, but then he's supported by the government, and he says that the government is going to have the victory, even in the midst of this widely televised, everybody's talking about it, revolution. Kenya's rising up. God is saying, Kenya, do not look at the rising up. Pay attention to what will happen once the waves calm down. For the waves must calm down, because the win is not to you. The win is not to any country. The win is to the beast system of Daniel 7, Revelation 13. He says, whether the visible head resigns or not, be warned, the beast is in. The beast is the nation. The new head will simply do as it's told and carry out the agenda of the old one. Yours is a forfeit government. The beast system has arrived. And so there is an old mythology story. When I say mythology, I simply mean you can substitute the word history there, because that's all mythology is. It's simply old things that actually did happen and have been weakened to the level of mere stories by the current generation who doesn't believe in anything that Siri and Alexa can't explain to them. Excuse me, please. But there's an old mythology story of the demigod. He was just a hybrid. He was part god, part of the Nephilim clan, okay? Descended from the early Nephilims, and part human, and his name was Hercules. And he had superhuman strength, good-looking guy, much bigger than other men, but his great power was exactly like Superman. Modern Superman is modeled on this ancient hero by the name of Hercules. And Hercules, his father was Zeus, and he had a human mother. And as the story goes, Hercules was he had quite a temper. And so he said something once to the wife of the head god, and he angered her, and he was set what are called labors or tests. He had, I think, 10 labors, might have been 12, but I think it is 10. He was given labors, and he had to complete them all as punishment. And one of Hercules' labors is what came to my mind when God was giving me this prophecy. He had to go and battle. He had to go and battle something called a Hydra. Called a Hydra. And this Hydra, to start with, had several heads. So let's say it was a serpent. Let's say it had 3 heads. Okay, so the serpent had 3 heads. And he was told to battle the Hydra and kill it. So Hercules finds what swamp the thing is living in. It was shaped like a dragon, right? So it had the body of a dragon, but then it had 3 heads coming out from its stump. 3 heads. And so he goes and he has this really good sword, and he begins to fight the thing, rouses the thing, starts the battle, cuts off 1 head. And then he turns to cut off the 2nd head. And when he looks, the first head has grown back 2 heads. So remember, he had 3 heads. He cut off 1. He thought he had 2. When he looked, he's battling 4. And this was the secret power of the Hydra. Whenever you would cut off a head, it would grow 2 heads. So in a very short time, Hercules chopping and chopping, thinking that he could chop faster than the heads could regenerate. He was finding himself facing 12 heads and then 16 extrapolated heads. But Hercules was not a slow Nephilim. He was very, very clever. And so what he did was he got a torch. And then whenever he would cut off a head, so it could be a head that maybe had grown 5 heads by that time, he would cut it off at the base stump. And then he would put fire there. And that is how he defeated the thing. He would put fire there, and it cauterized that head, that wound, that stump, so that nothing could grow. And that is what came to my mind when I was going through this message, when God was saying, whether the visible head resigns or not, be warned, the beast is the nation. Which means, Kenya, you can change presidents as often as you want. You can get rid of this one, send him running to Tanzania for help. You can send him running to the UK for support. A lot of nations will be retiring their presidents either through death, that is coups, assassinations, civil wars. The presidents will die like that, or some presidents will manage to escape. They will go to neighboring countries or some Western country that will give them help if they want to. But God is saying that you can change presidents as much as you want. Get one today, get one this year, and then in 2 years, get rid of him when he starts to do exactly what the first one did. Get rid of him and then replace him and keep having snap elections and keep voting in new ones, but you will never be able to cut off the head of what is prophesied in the Bible. He says the beast is the nation. And hear what he says. If the visible head, meaning President William Ruto, resigns now, he says that the new head will simply do what he's told. The new head will do what he's told, and he will carry out the agenda of the old one, which means if you cut off one head, another head will grow back. And no matter what his name is, no matter what his tribal designation is, no matter what t-shirt, what color t-shirt his supporters wear and dance in the streets when he is elected, within a year to 2 years, he will be back doing exactly what Ruto is doing now. Yours is a forfeit government. The beast system has arrived. What is God telling you? The beast system already has your government. The beast system already is the body. It will simply keep growing. Please listen. This system is not run by people who look like you, Kenya. They don't match your skin tone. They don't have your interest at heart. They may be interested in the natural resources and they may be interested in the land, but they have absolutely no interest in you, except as workers. And if there are too many of you, they will simply reduce the population by whatever means. God has told me that the primary means that Africa will suffer is through these evil diseases that they want to bring. They will want to bring very evil diseases and loose it across that continent because they would want to reduce the occupancy of the continent so they can come and use the resorts without being bothered about having to obey you and obey your laws and pay tax and things like that. This is the intention. And so for God to say that the beast system has arrived and the Kenyan government is forfeit, isn't it odd to have a body that doesn't look like you, but the head it keeps growing is black? Isn't that a terrifying thing? To have a body that is computed by something else, from somewhere else, what God calls masters, but it keeps producing a face that says Jambo. That is what it means to be corrupted from within. That is how the beast system works. It works with cunning, it works with craft, it works with artifice. Artifice is to put something in the front, and then, can you see my fingers through the screen? You work in the background. But as long as the fingers stay close, the majority of what is happening here at the back cannot be seen. But the beast system is no longer interested in hiding. And so people who are students of God's truth will be able to see the mechanized puppet in the front and the puppet master at the back. That is what is going on. So God says you can never rip a cancer out of your body once it's spread all over. Everybody knows as soon as you get that first diagnosis, that's the time to start fighting it. That's the time to go off everything that feeds cancer. That's the time to dig your foot in and really go before the Lord and cry out for your life and say, and begin to declare by faith, I shall live but not die. The time to fight cancer, God says, is when the early warning signs, when the disease is just showing its sign. Early warning, they call it. He says that's when you're supposed to fight and do your best to eradicate whatever you are seeing as a sign of cancer in you. So what might be signs of the beast system cancer? Mobile money is always a sign that the beast system is there. Any right-minded person knows that cash is one of the most powerful forms of transaction. It's the oldest form of economic trading and transaction that we have, right? Being able to give a tangible monetary, whatever, it's a gold coin, it's a silver coin. They used to have these little weird, very interesting looking things like trees in West Africa. It would be made of total gold, and then you would simply break off little pieces of the gold tree, a little snippet of gold, and then you would hand that in exchange for whatever you want and keep the longer bar until it was all done. So it's always been something tangible for something tangible. Then we went to electronic money, but cash has still been in circulation. You have heard, if you've been here long enough, you will know that one of the beast's greatest triumph will be getting rid of all money. Coins will be the first thing to go. America had shock when, I think it was in 2023, a lot of big stores and big businesses started cooperating with these tacit recommendations not to honor cash. And then they started telling you, if you want to buy something and it's $18.56, we can accept the $18, but you need to give us the exact 56 cents. We're not making change. We're not making change. And so that's one of the things you'll start to see. You will know that the beast system is strong in your country when they manage to successfully transition you, not even to normal banking that uses the ATM, but this sending and receiving of money on your phone. This sending and receiving of money on your phone, as in normal transactions, person to person. I think it's called M-Pesa. You have that. A lot of countries in Southeast Asia, they have that, right? This sending of money person to person for transactions, things like that. So when you're starting to get mobile money, and your mobile money can actually be treated like a bank, don't you go to the mobile money seller and tell him that sometimes you want to draw forth physical cash. Don't you do that? Have you ever seen a place like here where ordinary human beings are empowered to act like a localized bank? Just a guy sitting under a tree with a cell phone, and you come and you do transactions with him, and then he can give you cash, or he can take cash from you and then put it into something like an online wallet. That is one of the beast's greatest triumph that I've been talking about here for at least 4 years, calling it beta testing. And the first thing the place they tried it with mostly is in third world countries. They tried it in third world countries because whenever the beast wants to advance anything, it needs to see how will the people react? How will the people respond? Will they accept it? Will they not accept it? Will they move along with it? Okay. Are they moving along with it? Are we getting the old people in? The old people are not in. Okay, we've lost that demographic. Who's picking it up faster? Gen Z. But also even people in their 40s are using it. They're not closing their bank accounts completely, but as we're tracking the transactions, so-and-so is using more mobile money per month than the banks. This is how they gather data to know if their plans are working. Another thing that I spoke about, I think it's in 2021, is what will be called here in the United States the Real ID. They tried it with you, but the program didn't go through. It ran into snags, and those snags were a blessing. They tried it with Kenya, and it was called the Huduma number. The Huduma number. So that program was rolled out, but now it kind of stalled. Whatever the setbacks were, perhaps this kind of ID is not going to be easy to implement in the rural areas, simply because rural areas people are not about that life. They really don't care. So it's you in the city who love bright and shiny things that will always be the first fish to be hooked in the mouth by these things that are coming, because nobody is telling you who's behind these things. So the Huduma number eventually failed. And then if you will see in the fulfillment video, it's been rolled over now to something called the Maisha card. So yes, it will be a card first. But if you watch that video, the last one is talking about plans in conjunction with Bill Gates, the international butcher, to make sure that this Huduma, that this Maisha card transitions to something that will be placed on the newborns. So you labor for 9 months, you and your husband watching over your seed growing up in this earth, and then you bring them, and somebody is telling you that they want to chip your child like cattle. So the beast system is a visible cancer now in many nations. And God is saying here to all of us that it's too late to try and attack this thing, because the time to attack it was, for instance, when George Bush Sr., now deceased, was standing and saying, we have a real opportunity here to create for ourselves a new world order. He wasn't talking to you, America. He was talking to the other elites scattered around the world. That lady with the lady with the perpetually gray hair in France, the one who's in charge of the French bank. He's sending out those signals. He was talking to the Henry Kissingers of the world. He was talking to whoever, the Tony Blairs of the world. That's who that man was talking to. He wasn't talking to you as a nation. The world that they're building has nothing to do with you. The phrase that they use for us is useless eaters, meaning that we're consuming food and we're producing toxic gases and we're dirtying up the planet that they imagine to have all to themselves. So the time to be attacking it was when they were at least bold enough to stand and make statements And that time is at least 30 years past. And God says now we are out of the infancy stages and the cancer is rampant throughout the body. And he says when you're filled with cancer, it is a death sentence. When you're filled with beast system technology, it is a sign that your cancer is too advanced. I spoke to Africa in the other video just under the anointing of the Lord. And I said that when you start to see QR codes popping up everywhere, when you start to see Western celebrities, especially from here, the land of poison, when you start to see them landing in your country to come and do collaborations with you, to come and have shows for you, when the tech gurus start landing there and telling you, we'll put a fiber optic network in every village, they're not doing it to beautify you and to modernize you. They're doing it to prepare the ground for their system. The beast is like a blind pimple without the internet. I've explained this for years. Satan is not omnipotent, nor is he omniscient. He doesn't have all-seeing sight and all-ruling power the way Yah does. Satan will rely on a network of monitoring and micro cameras that will be smaller than an eyelash hair that they will scatter all through the nations, all through the homes, watching us through the TVs, watching us through the devices. And I've said to you that it will be exactly like that movie 1984. You will be in your house and the TV will tell you you've been in the bathroom too long. Come out. Every single step, waking moment, sleeping moment, you will be controlled. You will have to watch what is on that TV. And it is non-stop defiling stuff or propaganda. I have prophesied here to you years ago, and I told you that hardcore porn will be on the TV in the afternoon, and the children will come home from school and watch it, and they will think nothing of it. They will be absolutely corrupted. I have told you that people will be having sex in the street, and they're doing it now. They're doing it now boldly. And then people will still say there's a separation between the reprobates and no. The nations will be made reprobate. And God is saying here to us that the beast will only allow nations that don't struggle too much to live in some kind of decency. So to a nation like this one, the one that I'm in, New York City nation, it's straight bombing. I have told you that the U.S. government will use bombs and other explosives on its own population because the population is going to say, no, Ricky, not us. And there's going to be insurrection in this country and the government is going to pull out all the stops. They have the bombs. You don't have bombs. I have told you they will make a concerted effort to take the guns here because they know they did it to Canada and they did it to Australia successfully. All they can fight back with is party straws. They have nothing. So when the government starts marching and going to their doors and tell them, we hereby announce that you have COVID-87. They won't be able to do anything. They can't defend their homes. They can't defend anything. And I've said that because this country will not let go of its Second Amendment rights easily, it will be taken through false flags, false accusations. They will simply blow up enough things and cause enough children. I told you the false flags will be real. They will no longer be staged. We will see blood. And they will keep saying, it's the guns, until they unilaterally pass that law. If you hang on to your gun, you will automatically be an outlaw. I have shared with you what outlaws will go through. You are subject to search and seizure. You can be picked up indefinitely. You can be shot on sight. I gave all of that in the prophecy about how they will give the arm thing here compulsively. It will be compelled to take it. And I saw that everybody who had not taken it up to that period, they simply chased people down and jumped on you and gave it to you by force. And what was the rationale? God showed me in the mind of the officers, once you become a fugitive in the New World Order, you are not subject to any niceties. You're not subject to any rights. Anything can be done to you, including up to death. And death was not the only thing. I have shared with you, America, that even after death, they will hang you in the street. They will hang 5 of you in the street from 5 different lampposts so that as we walk by, we will have 5 different examples of what not to do and how to behave. I've held nothing back from you. The problem is the unbelief. It is not that you haven't heard. It is that you cannot conceive that the things you watch on TV will become real. And the same for other nations. The QR code is the entry into the beast system. And I've said that it is to bring nations that are not up to speed with the Western nations. It is to bring those nations up close enough so that the beast doesn't have a very large jump to make. The beast should not be all seeing, all knowing here in for instance, in Portugal or in Germany, and then all of a sudden jump into Zambia, and then the beast is trying to be controlling, and he's like on dial-up. He's on like medium level speed internet, and he can't even do the evil laugh because the page is still buffering for the soldiers in black to spy on the people. It's not going to work. They're going to modernize, not for your sake, but for theirs, because there's an agenda that they're carrying out. And so God says that the beast is going to divide and conquer. Divide and conquer means simply that they will read the situation and see who's the majority party and keep bringing that majority party in. Divide and conquer works perfectly here in America. Red team and blue team hate each other to death. Red team and blue team from the same family. If somebody gets cancer, they will never give a kidney to save the other person. Such is the hatred. They've been trained. People here have been trained like lemmings and monkeys to hate each other. And yes, they are. And yet they're both Americans. It's been a clever plot. It's been 100% successful. The people on the ground are fighting for two people who should be on life support, and they hate each other. That is divide and conquer. The nation is split in the middle like a rotten coconut, and that is one of the ways they will do it. God says if they're not successful to do it, then they will brutally crush revolt, which means you uprise, you uprise, you uprise. They switch all of a sudden, no warning. They just switch from rubber bullets to the real thing. Right, Kenya? No warning. Nothing through the megaphone to let you know we're switching to live rounds. Just let loose, and then when you look, you and your friend have been in the revolution for the past 5 days. It's even fun now. You guys tie your bandanas, hide your face. You have the buckets of water to catch the smoke grenades. You're ready, and then all of a sudden, live rounds. Nobody was prepared for that. You look, it's not corn syrup. It's real blood. That's what brutally crushing revolt means. Or he says, sweet infiltration. So now you will have the groups of the young people, and they will say, no, we're doing this and we're doing that. And then into the midst come the snitches. Into the midst comes the young people who are drawing a salary to listen and report back, to listen and to snitch. America has also been told of this. And so God says we will soon see visible changes across all societies with more or less the same results. Look at France. If that is not a classic example of the beast system in operation. For you have watched over the weeks as France has let Emmanuel Macron know that he has come to the end of the road, the final destination, the last door. We don't want to see you, Macron. They have been burning, setting stuff on fire in that country since mid-2023, to the best of my knowledge. France has been in a constant uproar, a constant state of revolt. The country doesn't even look the same. They don't pick up garbage. They just are letting the place deteriorate to show their disdain for the man who's leading them. And then recently they had a vote, and the vote clearly showed a shocking swing towards the right. Saw those people on the news congratulating themselves. We've got it in the bag. What does the man do? Like a child, he dissolves the General Assembly, calls a snap election, and during that time places calls to headquarters. You must know this because this is what is happening. Whenever you see it going this way and the needle snaps back and the incumbent remains, you should know who's behind the phone calls. He simply placed a Mayday call. We wake up this morning, he's made some deals with the far left. And how did they celebrate winning? Burning the place down again. So this is how it's going to go. You will try to cast off the yoke, and the yoke will hold on even tighter and even closer. And all nations need to be aware of this. And so God says that kingdoms will fall to the beast. We are going into an era where this thing of wearing your national colors, there will be no national colors. We're about to look now at the how the kingdom of iron and clay works. We're about to now look at the beast system. And so individualism will be crushed. Passport carrying will be crushed. This real ID will be a loadable wallet that will be introduced to all nations. And I said that when they first introduce it, it will probably be just a driver's license that you can also fly with. And maybe if you are living in certain regionalized part of the world, like the EU or Southern Africa, Western Africa, Eastern Africa, something like that, or even the ASEAN region in Asia. If you're living in any of those areas, then this new real ID might give you a very enjoyable free passage in your region. But what's coming after that is group money. No individual money with your president's face on it or notable figures from your nation's history on the money telling a story, the $10, $20, $50. It won't be like that. We're going into global currency. We're going into standardized currency that will exist in the cloud. Nobody's going to be touching and handling money. I said that they're going to board up the ATMs. Banks are not going to operate like that. It's all going to be strictly cloud. And I've also shared that we will come to a point where it's not strictly cloud anymore. The money will be placed on you. The prophecy is called designer finance. And in that prophecy, what I saw is that booths appeared right here in this America. Booths appeared. So it wasn't standardized banking anymore. You could still bank, but the bank was asking for hair. The bank was asking for saliva for you to open a brand new account. They were telling you that anything as basic as a signature was no longer acceptable. They didn't even need a fingerprint. They wanted your whole palm. They wanted your whole palm. Because they said, who can fake these specialized lines in the palm? So they were taking the whole palm, and they were also taking teeth. They were taking teeth samples. That's where I said I saw the understanding that that thing that people are using now to fix teeth, it's just beta testing. They simply want to know, will you bite stuff and send it to people you don't know with your DNA, your saliva dried on that teeth shaping putty? Have you noticed how so many of them went out of business? Yeah, that's because huge, massive parts of the population have already handed in their DNA to the DNA banks. Then all of a sudden, one by one, oh, it's going broke. Oh, it's no longer in business. One by one, they're declaring bankruptcy. Why? Because they were just a beta test. The beast system always wants to know who's going to be first on the roller coaster. They always want to know who that first wave is that they can push off the cliff with no effort, because they know that at the end of times, there will always be that last wave that they're basically going to have to put in chains to get them to obey. They know that. So they enjoy the first wave, because those are the people, as soon as you put it on the news, they're like, oh yeah, sign me up. I'll take 14 of those. They always do that. That is actually how you differentiate in the population. Who will be the green zone? People who can easily be re-educated. God was telling me recently that all these people who are walking around in your homes in onesies and Pampers now, the babies, they're walking around in Pampers, they're walking around in Huggies. Those people, unless you intervene strongly in their education, they are the very people who will be working 100% for the beast system. You must understand, as a parent, there's going to be a very wide rift between you and your child. A lot of you, your children can't even write cursive, can they? They can barely write. They can barely write. I've seen waiters taking my order and their handwriting looks like RoboCop. They can't write. I know this generation automatically came through school on the tablets. Penmanship was not an issue. They didn't teach them how to write. They don't care about how these kids write. They just basically teach them, sign your name because one day you'll be a CEO. All kinds of lies. The children can't write. They can't make change out of the register. They can't spell. And when I say children, I'm talking about people in their late 20s. You look at their spelling and it's frightening. Even people in their 30s. There's going to come a created gap between you and your children who are familiar with screens and buttons and you. And while those children are under your care, if you do not introduce Jesus Christ front and center, limiting screen time, insisting on Bible time. Bible with the book, not Bible on the tablet. Every time adults come and say, do you think I can read the Bible on my phone? I will never answer you until the Lord comes back. You don't deserve an answer because you're not a serious person. Because you're on a channel that tells you the grid will go down, and then what? How are you going to charge your Bible that's on the phone and the tablet? Pray tell. The state will exploit the gap between the generations. It will exploit the gap between the very old and the old, between the old and the middle aged, between the middle aged and the whoever, and between the whoever, medium-sized young and the very young, the youth, the children. It will exploit every gap that it can, because that is how you work with craft. That is how you divide and conquer. You set the youth against their parents by telling them that their parents are racist and their parents are old-fashioned and their parents are this and that and that. And then as you turn their hearts away, then you win their hearts with hoverboards. You win their hearts with Grand Theft Auto and Fortnite. You win their hearts. You separate them from their parents. You separate them from oversight. You tell them you only live once. Sleep with everybody and make it count. That's what you tell them. Then you see prostitution in the young men and the young women. They're so proud of it. They're posting their body count, the number of beds that they've rolled through, the number of STIs they've collected. And they say, don't slut shame me. You're shaming yourself. You're turning yourself into a statistic, a grimy one that Jesus will not receive unless you get down on your knees and repent for the way that you have lived. And so, God says that this fourth beast that is coming is more terrible than all its fellows, and that the predecessor format of how world governments used to operate is over. He didn't say shall be over. It's over. The coup from within is finished. The reason that we can all be sent indoors and told it's mandated, it's an emergency measure, is because we've now reached the point where it's already done. It's already done. They're not testing it now. They're bringing it out in the open to sit it before us like a grand finale for which we are expected to clap. And shamefully, the Bible says that indeed the beast is going to get a lot of claps. Just a moment, please. So, I'm now going to take a brief look at Revelation 13. I've referenced this passage of scripture in so many prophecies as I've been going through, especially beast system prophecy, showing you how various verses link through with the messages that God has been giving me. This is Satan's end game. But as you can see, it's just chapter 13 of the Bible, which means that a lot continues on. God has still more, but this is Satan's end game. Satan's end game has always been for him to replicate or have a kingdom or have a world that he feels he is the Lord of, because he was not able to establish that on the sides of the north where our great Heavenly Father sits, because he was cast out without so much as a by your leave, rejected, no longer able to enter into the company of the high ones, the anointed ones, the elders, the Lord Jesus Christ, Yah himself. And so Satan's end game has always been to set up something that, at least in his warped mind, is comparable to God's lordship, comparable to God's power, comparable to God's overarching rule and control. The problem is that Satan didn't have any raw materials. He didn't have any people that he could use. He didn't have any angels that he could use. And so everything that he's using is borrowed goods. All power belongs to God. So everything that Satan is using, even the power that he will use to rule the beast system and to do all that he will do, even that power is power that is devolved, that God gave Satan and God originally allowed Satan to keep. Many people have questions. If God knew Satan was going to be evil celestial, why did he allow him? And the answer is very simple. The answer is simply that you go and stand in the mirror and look at your face. God knew that you would be evil and he allowed you. I think most people don't actually travel back down the train tracks of logic to the origin point of the questions that they ask. They tend to just ask their question in the middle, and they feel it's so logical, they feel it's so wise, and it deserves an answer. But most questions, if you will simply get in those little, those little train buckets that they have in the kiddies cartoon, and just begin to pump it until it goes back to the origin inside the mind, you will find the answer that you're looking at. Why should God take away Satan's power and free will when he allows you to have yours, with everything that you do, with everything that you think and say, with everything that you've done in your past before you were Christian? What if God had ended you according to the exact laws you want him to end Satan by? Because you know what's good for the goose is good for the gander. The fallen angels, being so much more powerful than us, are definitely the goose. We are the gander. Why do you want God to apply unequal hierarchy when the Bible tells us we are created a little lower than the angels? Why should he rob the angels who are higher of their free will to sin, and then allow you, who will sleep much earlier than an angel, to sin and live? Satan also sins and lives, because there's one ending prescribed for all sinners who now live. Even the sinners who sleep shall arise to that judgment that's waiting for the current ones and the future ones. So that's why Satan has his power, because you have yours. So let's begin. Revelation chapter 13, the Lord's word. Then I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, having 7 heads, 10 horns, and on his horns 10 crowns, and on his heads a blasphemous name. So here now, John the Revelator, okay, we'll simply call him Apostle John. Apostle John is saying that in his vision, this vision that Jesus, all of this is the revelation of Jesus Christ to his beloved Apostle John, the last one still living at that time. Jesus is revealing to John what things shall be. And John says that in the course of the continuing visions that he's been having, he finds himself standing on the sand of the sea, and he saw a beast coming up out of the sea, having 7 heads, 10 horns, 10 crowns, resting on the horns, and then on the heads written a blasphemous name. This same picture, we're looking at it piece by piece, and you can find this same creature here that is being described. 7 heads, 10 horns, 10 crowns ringed on all the horns, and a blasphemous name. You can find this exact picture here in Revelation 17. So I'll read Revelation 17 and 3. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, which was full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was arrayed, that means she was dressed, very richly dressed, in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the filthiness of her fornication. And on her forehead a name was written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. And so Revelation 17 here gives us a picture of what I've always said, that America, God has revealed that you are Mystery Babylon, the whore that has defiled the entire earth with your abominations and your filthy fornications that you are carrying in a golden cup. So you give to the nations what looks like freedom, and you give to the nations what looks like diversity and inclusion and LGBTQ rights, but God says that that cup is a golden facade. Inside it are things that destroy nations and make them hateful unto God. And now this harlot is riding something, and it says that the beast she's riding is a scarlet beast that has names of blasphemy. And Revelation 13 tells us that the heads, every head of this 7-headed beast has a blasphemous name written on it. And so it's the same beast. And you see that the woman, the harlot, is riding on this beast. And just as I always told you, America is in full cooperation, full partnership with the beast. And the first time that the Lord showed me this, I remember in the prophecy, I was aghast when I actually saw it. And I said, Lord, what kind of nation is this that is so proud that it will ride the back of an ancient creature and actually believe that it can have partnership with such an ancient evil and live? And so these 7 heads here are the 7 continents upon which our world sits. These 10 horns are the 10 regions that the 7 continents will be divided into. The one that I speak of most often is the fact that America will be joined to Canada at the top and all of South America at the bottom, and will simply be called one region, the North American Federation, with no Canadian specialness, no American specialness, no Nicaraguan or Chile, Paraguay, Uruguay, none of that, no Brazil, none of that, no Mexico. It will not be like that. It will just be scrunched up into one thing. All the individual flags will be taken away. And right there, when I'm saying this, you know that I've been telling you exactly these facts. For I have been telling you that the world will just be made into this amorphous gray horribleness of global citizens, global citizens, global citizens. So I've been talking about patriotism. I've been talking about nationalism. Can you imagine the pain, for instance, when they take away Brazil's flag? Can you see those people taking it quietly? Can you see Nigerians taking it quietly? Can you see Rainbow Nation, South Africa, taking it quietly? To be told, no, there's one group, Africa, this flag business has to go away. This individual passport business has to go away. We're going to just make everything easy. And then the central 2 languages, the languages of your colonizers, will be English and French. Oh, and a nod to the Angolans to speak Portuguese. Can you see that going over well? Do you now see why God said, the fires of revolution will burn for a while? People are not going to take this lying down. People are going to think, please listen, that they can fix biblical prophecy with protesting. That's what Kenya thinks. That's what Kenya's doing right now. That's what France is doing right now. People will think that these words that are older than all of us, they can fix them by protesting, by going in the street, by showing visible displeasure. And what will happen is the beast will simply play that game with you for a while. But all the time, the beast is watching for weaknesses. The beast is watching how long can they protest? Because if they're going to do like this, then we as the government actually have the right to go out there with live rounds. Because every government has the right to put down. We will simply say it's starting to look like insurrection. It's starting to look like a coup. And then we respond with force. But then maybe we can bring them to the table. Maybe we can talk to the heads. The beast will always identify the leaders of a revolution and kill them. Africa, is this news to you? Where is Patrice Lumumba now? Where is he? Where are all the people who led the revolutions? Where is Kwame Nkrumah now? Where is he? What happened to the fathers of the revolution who went and schooled in Soviet places? And then America was terrified that Africa, with all those resources that she needed to grow, was going to turn communist, turn to Russia and shut her out, use all her resources to build up Russia and shut her out. Where are all the people who led the revolutions? They died. And all of a sudden, you just started seeing these geriatrics that would rule from age 38 all the way to age 74. One man would sit in the seat. That's because he was being paid from Washington, D.C. to sit in the seat. The beast is an old evil. And so, the 7 continents you have heard, the 10 horns will be 10 regions. The entire earth will be redressed into 10 regions. And the 10 crowns that are sitting on the 10 horns are the 10 leaders of those regions. The 10 leaders of those regions. And the heads, the 7 heads, the 7 continents, the Bible says, will each be bearing a blasphemous name. Now, I'm not going to speculate what that blasphemous name is, but since we only know one prince of blasphemy, you can know that whatever it is, it will be coming from Satan and not from God, that the continents will be forced under. And now it says, the beast that I saw was like a leopard. His feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth was like the mouth of a lion. The dragon gave him his power, his throne, and his great authority. Now, before I jump into Daniel to show you where the same picture appears, understand this. When I'm reading my Bible, I'm not overly concerned in taking, for instance, taking my study time. I'm reading, the Holy Spirit is with me, and then all of a sudden, I need to know who the leopard is. So then I begin a rabbit hole. And the rabbit hole could be 3 hours because of course, the internet, the blogs, the podcasts. There's so many of them. Everybody has an idea who it could be, as well as the old writers. They also had their ideas, sometimes right, sometimes wrong. And now, instead of reading the Bible to deepen my understanding in spirit so that I can prepare myself to be someone who is well able in faith, for faith is what you need to survive the beast system. It's not protest, it's not noise, it's not whatever you think it is. It is great faith. Great faith. To prepare myself in faith, but now I'm off on rabbit holes. I've never been one to read my Bible like that. The reason that I buy Bibles without any kinds of notes is because when I'm reading the Bible, I hate to hear the voice of another person in my ear. I only want to hear the Holy Spirit. I never buy Bibles that have notes, that have commentary. I despise such Bibles because every man upon this earth has a voice. And when you buy a T.D. Jakes Bible, for goodness sake, or Joyce Meyer Bible, or Frederick Price Bible, then all you get is more, as they explain on top of the scripture. Holy Spirit is all over this book. I'm cooking in my seat right now. I'm so warm. Because as soon as anyone with an intentional heart and love for this book comes upon this book, the Holy Spirit is there. Hey, what you got there? What you doing? What you doing, buddy? He's all over it. So I understand that some people need that. But from the day I got saved, I never needed that. There was always someone there talking, speaking, and I just took it for granted. I thought that's how everybody read their Bible, with the man, as I used to call him, the man. So that's just that. So I've never been one, if I'm reading Revelation, I need to go and see what Matthew Henry said and what so-and-so said. I just read the Bible, and sometimes, because Revelation is such a dense material, you read it and you let it go in. You read it and you let it go in. Sometimes you read the Bible and it's going to sit right here, right at the clavicle. It's going to be like a huge piece of meat that you ate that is choking you. You're not going to be able to get that thing down. But the Holy Spirit, as I said, is intentional. The Bible says that he will take of all things that belongs to God and he will make them known to you. How is he going to make them known to you if you're constantly fidgeting? Well, what does it mean? What does it mean? Give it time. Like every dense, rich, heavy, and oily meal, eventually it will go down. I would simply read this stuff and just leave it. I would read it and leave it and read it and leave it. And then as time passed, it would just be like a light bulb went on. And I would be like, that is that. That is what it is. Thank you, God. And as you can see, the Bible always links. It always links. It always links in different places, which means in order for your linkages to really work, you need to make the commitment of time to read it. The people who are going to concerts, I really don't know what time you have to read your Bible. In between working the extra shifts for the money to buy the tickets to go and see these witches and warlocks in action, I don't know what you're doing. So when I first read it, this beast, a leopard, feet like a bear, mouth like a lion, the dragon gave him his power and his throne. I'm going to show you here how, even before God gave me deeper revelation, just by reading this, the nature of the beast system was revealed to me, and it was never hidden. Now the beast, what is a beast? Is a beast a parrot? Is the beast a hamster? Is a beast a word we use for something that is controllable, kind, docile, manageable? Even when we get heavy projects at work, we say, wow, this project is a beast. That means that it's got teeth and claws and it's really getting at us, and we have got to work hard to try and overcome all the challenges of the project. So right here, when it says the beast, you're dealing with something feral. You're dealing with something that belongs in the forest and not in the city, meaning that you're dealing with something that's exceptionally wild and dangerous. And now here are the attributes. It says like a leopard. What are leopards known for? Leopards are some of the greatest stealth cats. Leopards are famous for people saying the thing was overhead and it had never cracked a branch or moved a leaf. A leopard is known for stealth. They are better at creeping up on you even than the king of the jungle, a lion. And yet at the same time, one must marvel how this animal is so stealthy, because it's not exactly as good at camouflage as a lion. Lions look like the savannas they live in. Their coat blends in everywhere, but leopards are very distinctive. Do you see what God is saying here? God is telling you that something has the ability to creep right up on you in plain sight, and you won't see it. You will not see it. That means they'll introduce the QR code and you'll think, thank goodness, these are so convenient, and you won't see it. They'll bring the mobile wallet to your country and you will all rush and sign up for it because you won't see it. This leopard here is the chief of peace and safety. It's for your good. It's to make the society better. It's to make everything smoother, more streamlined, more easy. Right in your face, unable to blend in, that spotted coat, and yet you won't see it. It creeps up on you with stealth. It's also a predator. The next animal is also a predator. It is a bear. The feet were like the feet of a bear. So now, unlike the lion in this passage, unlike the beast, unlike the let me not lose my place here. Unlike the leopard, this animal is the only one that's able to stand upright. The bear. Bears can stand upright like people. They can walk around like that, upright, like people. They don't have to go on all fours. In this passage, only the bear and the dragon have the ability to stand upright. The rest of them are on their feet. Bears are also dangerous. They pack a lot of power. If you get a slap from that animal, that's your neck. That's your life. They have claws, and they're also faster than they appear. So what are the attributes that God is showing us here? This is an animal that it's easy to misdiagnose. It's easy to misdiagnose unless you actually know these animals. The way that bears walk and the way that they seem lumbering, you can never know that they can get up to the miles per hour that they actually can get. So God is showing you a predator that it is easy for you to mistake as sleepy, a predator that it is easy for you to mistake as slow, and yet it has superior striking and chasing power. And so we then look at the lion, right? The first person that was mentioned, the first beast that is mentioned, the first creature that is mentioned after the beast is the leopard. We've looked at his attributes. And then for the bear, we've looked at the bear's attributes, and what it noted about him is his feet, that he can stand upright, exactly like a man. And then we move on and it says, and his mouth was like the mouth of a lion. What is a lion? King of the jungle, another predator, also known to be good at hunting both in the daytimes and at night. But lions have a different kind of reputation. They're known as royalty. Lions are the apex. Even though there's so many other cats that are better than them, faster than them, can hunt better than them, the lion has that particular pride of place. Part of the reason that safari guides say he has that pride of place is because that roar shuts down everything in the jungle. When the lion roars, none of the other predators can do that and have that sound carry and chill in the bones the way the lion can. So he's seen as royalty, as a king. That's how lions are seen. He has a sound, a voice that demands respect and paralyzes. So God is telling you this amalgamated beast here that is able to stand upright, that is able to be, that is able to give a horribly heavy striking blow, a beast that is easy to underestimate, a beast that will not bother to camouflage itself and yet will still creep up on you without you noticing it. God also tells you that it now has a mouth, a talking tongue that demands respect, a mouth that will paralyze the nations. And again, lions are predators. And then the last animal or creature that is mentioned here in verse 2 is the dragon. So-called mythological creature, but not so much. Not at all. It says this dragon, which you can find out exactly who he is one chapter over in Revelation chapter 12. The dragon that was in the sky with, ooh, look at that. Revelation chapter 12 and verse 2. And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great, fiery, red dragon having 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 diadems. That is, 7 crowns upon his head. Same creature in 12, 13, and 16. So it says here that this dragon now, also a killing predator, this one can fly, meaning that all the others are land-based, but this one has the ability to spread out to anywhere. It says that he gives the beast his power, his throne, and great authority. You can find out all about the powers that he will be working with in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 8, 9, 10, and 11. That is where it tells you that the beast, the devil, will be working with powers and signs and lying wonders, and that many people will perish, of course, because they love the lying wonders more than they love the truth that would have saved them. And so in this one chapter, the Bible describes for us deadly attributes that we as humans, as flesh, cannot compete with. We can't even see with the kind of peripheral vision that all these predators can see with. And yet God describes this coming beast as having all these attributes backed up. I've named for you natural attributes, right? Speed, stealth, cunning. But then it's backed up by the dragon, Satan, who is not of this earth. What does this tell you about the nature of the beast system? The beast system is a natural system that is going to have faces like the Clintons, the Bushes, the Obamas, the Trumps, as the visible face. Whoever is leading the Rutos, whoever is leading the Macrons, whoever are the leaders in the various nations. You're going to see human faces, but they are going to be serving a devilish agenda at the back. And all of this is tucked into just 1 and 2, verses 1 and 2. This agenda, verse 1 tells us, is going to be sitting across the whole earth, all continents, protest or not, fight or not, revolution or not, all continents, all 7 heads are going to be touched. And now let us just look briefly here in Daniel 7. Yes. And Daniel is basically saying that he had a dream. Okay. Daniel spoke saying, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the 4 winds of heaven were stirring up by the great sea. And 4 great beasts came up from the sea, each different from the other. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I watched till its wings were plucked off. And it was lifted up from the earth and made to stand on 2 feet like a man. And a man's heart was given to it. Verse 5, and suddenly another beast, a second, like a bear. It was raised up on one side, and it had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth. And they said thus to it, arise, devour much flesh. After this I looked, and there was another, like a leopard, which had on its back 4 wings of a bird. The beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. After this, I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, exceedingly strong. It had huge iron teeth. It was devouring, breaking in pieces, and trampling the residue with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. So you can see that for all the centuries separating Daniel, who was a much earlier prophet, and John, Jesus, the wise, puts the picture of the beast system in the hands of what we call an Old Testament prophet, and then gives the same prophecy to John, a New Testament prophet. And so you see the continuity of how God bridges the eternal things, the things that will not pass away, between the Old Testament and the New. And here in the Old Testament, we see the first beast mentioned is a lion, but this time the lion is described a bit more with detail. And it says that an eagle's wings are on the back of the lion. And John said he was watching this lion, and then he saw the wings being plucked off of the lion. And then the lion was made to lift up off the earth. So remember, I said that we saw that in the beginning, the lion is 4-footed like the rest. But now here it says, John says he watched, and the lion was made to be able to stand up on 2 feet, just like a man. And the lion had a man's heart given to this. And so given to it. And so I'm studying as the years go by. And then the Lord revealed to me that this lion here, in historical context, is the nation that we now call the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom. And the wings of the eagle on the back of the United Kingdom is the United States. And you see the separation of the two all the way back here, whereby the lion is separated from its wings. And then the lion stands up and a man's heart is given to it. And how astonished I was when the Lord reminded me that of all these various kingdoms, it is in the UK, I think, that you can see, they're very proud of this emblem where the lion stands up with 2 legs like this, with the mouth open, and sometimes it even has a crown. Just imagine living in modern times and God is allowing you to see something that even Daniel saw. It was quite humbling. One of the reasons that I never argue the Bible with people is it's so boring. What am I going to say to you when you're arguing about whatever you believe? I just have what I have, and I so love and treasure what I have, and I don't have to share what I have, but I do it despite whatever is said to me afterwards. And so you can see here that in the Old Testament, the wings appear. But in the New Testament, the wings do not appear. And this always hurts people when I think some man conducted some research and said that it's a question that Americans are pondering. Why doesn't America appear in the end times? Because we won't be there. As an end times player, America doesn't count. America's not going to be doing anything but getting punched by the bear and the bear's allies. Yes, until it goes away. And now you already know that the second animal here is the bear. And many times in prophecies of Russia, God will give this statement. This is what solidified it for me. It wasn't study, it was revelation, when he would always talk and send this command to Putin through the prophecies. Arise and devour much flesh. Arise and devour much flesh. And of course, I knew like that's from Daniel. That is what is said to the bear in Daniel. And then God is showing me in the prophecies, Russia represented as a bear that was sleeping a long time, locked in a land that was covered with ice. Russia used to be so far behind, but look at them now. Look at them now. And so this third animal here, it speaks of a leopard with the 4 wings of a bird on its back. To this day, I do not know. And it doesn't slow me down in understanding one bit. Because when God is ready, he may tell me on the other side. That is completely fine with me. But here, this third animal of stealth, to show continuity with the New Testament teaching in Revelation 13, you see that animal still there. And then a 4th beast. So in the New Testament, we're simply told, and the beast is there with a mouth like a lion and feet like a bear. But now here, Daniel is giving so much more richness. So let's look at what Daniel says. He says that the 4th beast was extremely dreadful and terrible. Old Testament people took these words to be very serious. It's not like now where someone just says of a child who won't stop being a nuisance, oh, that's such a dreadful child. No. They took the word to mean what they used it for, which is inspiring dread. Dread is a hopeless, heart-dropping, fearing feeling. It is the feeling like when you write your nurse's boards for the 5th time and you still don't know if you passed. It's horrible. You haven't passed it 4 times, and then you come to write it the 5th time, and the minute you open the paper, you're thinking, what demon set this paper for me? It's that sinking, it's fearing something, okay? That is what that is. And terrible. You just heard God use this word of himself. I, the Lord, am mighty and terrible. I think it was in the recent prophecy, Prepare for Level 10, when he was talking about how harsh the natural disasters and judgments and freak accidents will be. And so Daniel is saying that this is something to really, really fear. So then why do modern Christians have so much to say when I'm speaking about the beast system? No beast system will defeat us. This is, of course, the African contingent. And then the American contingent is, have you seen our guns? Have you seen the Marines? Have you seen the F-1s? I haven't seen anything. We don't see those things here in Brooklyn. We just see traffic. Why is it that an Old Testament man who is more devout than 99.9% of the Christians living today was able to observe the coming of Satan's kingdom? Not that he was worshiping it, but he was giving it the due respect, seeing what it would be. And then modern people, the people who are going to suffer what Satan's kingdom can do, are so flippant and blasé and arrogant when hearing about these things. Could it be that there's a disconnect between the type of faith that is in the Bible and the very poor representation of faith and spiritual understanding that we have today? Most 100% likely. He says it was dreadful, it was terrible, it was exceedingly strong. This kingdom, I have said in the prophecies where God allowed me to gaze at the time of Satan's rising army, this kingdom is coming up with a whole different form of warfare. So if you are used to fighting wars just with drones and things like that, it's going to go beyond. This is why I think the movie is called Pacific Rim. I've never seen these movies. It's just the trailer that is there. But in Pacific Rim, I think these men had an outer body that was very big and bulky. They would wear an outer body called an skeleton. I think it's called exoskeleton. Some kind of military imagined extra body that makes the man inside it much stronger, invulnerable. He doesn't get tired because the suit is doing everything for him. Satan is coming to fight wars with that thing. Satan is coming to fight wars with new guns. I told you that the new guns, when they shoot a part of you, that whole part will turn to soup. It will turn to melted candle. The face will go down, this part will go down, and it can also just make people vaporized. There's also a gun that when you do it, it does exactly what the lightsaber does. It will just cut you. It will just cut you. And I said that I saw the Chinese people premiering that gun, okay? They were testing that gun and they fired it. And then it just cuts the person and the whole top part just slides off the bottom part. It can just cut you in two and that part will just fall off. But it's a beam of light, okay? It's not bullets. It goes out like a beam, like a plasma ray gun. And for years, God told me not to speak about that gun. I think I only discussed that gun at the end of 2022 or last year, 2023. So there is that. So he says it's dreadful, meaning that it brings and causes fear. It's terrible, meaning that it's horrible. In the old days, for instance, I think Russia had a leader. He was called Ivan the Terrible. Not now like, oh, you're terrible, meaning terrifying by reason of deeds and what one does. And then he says exceedingly strong. So coming with a totally different type of control, rulership, and warfare. And then he says having huge iron teeth that were able to devour and break in pieces. This is the coming of a completely mechanized world. One of the ways, if you want to know how these iron teeth will devour, remember I have spoken of the fact that we are going into a new standard of medical care. In the new standard of medical care, they will put you into this AI scanner thing, okay? So we're not even going to have too much interfacing with humans. God says that we are going to be desensitized. They will take away the doctors and the nurses, and we will be scanned by, let's say, AI circle things, whatever that might be. Let's just say there's a there's a circle and you step into it, and then the door will seal, and then it will scan you from top to bottom, right? And then the AI will be the one to make a determination on if you will get care or not. So if that is not terrifying, and if that is not being devoured and broken in pieces, I said that after the thing scans you, it's going to print out this very colorful pie chart, and it's going to tell you, you have 68% heart functionality, good strong lungs. Oh, and there's a very sinister reason that they will break you up into that. But 68% heart functionality, good strong lungs, that's an 89%. You know, your blood oxygen level is pretty good. It's a 90%. But then your kidney function is a 2. So automatically, you know, you need dialysis. But at a 2, you actually need a transplant. You do. But then you're 71. And the AI will say, at 71, your productive years are not that many. We shall not offer care. That's what it will recommend. And the human doctor will have to go along with that recommendation. I have said that in the future, no one will take you into a room and tell you, you're going to want to sit down for this. That horrible AI voice is going to tell you that you are non-functional. That horrible AI voice is the one who's going to tell you that you are a non-viable subprime life. I'm going to link that AI prophecy here. It's 28 or 29 gripping minutes all about the future, all about that world that God gave me as I was just on a prayer call and I just started speaking. They will do this and they will do this, and AI will be the boss, and every boss has the right to fire his employees. AI will fire us out of life. AI will tell your sickle cell child that their life is suboptimal, subprime, and it will recommend no more care. And that is what will drive a lot of people, a lot of doctors, the few that have moral consciences. It will drive them into the underground. People who fall outside the system will be driven into the underground to look for the antibiotics they need, to look for this, to look for that, because the hospitals will not give it to you. They will not give it to you if the AI says you're not viable. And the AI is checking all your organs because it's trying to figure out if you simply want to become a donor and take the euthanasia, the fall asleep route out of life. And then they'll just take all your working stuff and give it to somebody who's 25 years old and playing football for the government. Who needs it? So that is just that. So that is indeed devouring and breaking the human being into pieces. Another way that devouring and breaking in pieces will happen, and trampling the residue with its feet, is exactly what I have described in this prophecy. Breaking up nations, beating people into oppression, taking away their civil rights, jailing them, taking away their individualisms, and making them all wear the gray onesie. So Daniel has said, and you have now heard it broken up for your understanding, that this beast was different from all the other beasts before it. And that's because all the other beasts before it are normal nations. The beast, you can hear, it has leopard, it has lion, it has eagle's wings, it has this, it has that. It is an amalgam. It will simply borrow of the strongest from every single type and create itself like an undefeated chimera, a hybrid, a mix. And so let us go back. And verse 3, and I saw one of his heads as if it had been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world marveled and followed the beast. Now, the one place that the Lord spoke to me of this is in that Obama prophecy. I saw this thing maybe 2014 or maybe 2015, a dream that I really kept close to myself, never breathed a word of that dream to anyone because of what I saw in that dream. And what I saw in that dream was that this man went to a very full stadium. He went to a very full stadium. It seems that he was addressing the whole world. Barack Obama, he was talking to the whole world, addressing the world. Screens were there, live simulcast. The whole world was listening. And then God showed me in this man's head something that I can only describe as a disc. Okay, it was exactly like a skipping stone. You know, when you go to the lake to skip stones, you're looking for the smooth, flat slate light stones, so that when you throw it, it can go across the water. So I saw something like a skipping stone, maybe 2.5 inches or something, around flat in his head, and it was resting at the base of his skull. And you know, President Obama has a scar in the back of his head, a massive gash that has never been explained to anyone. He has a very big healed scar at the back of his head that has no backstory that has ever been given to anyone. Well, God was showing me into that man's head, and I saw what looked like a skipping stone in his head implanted. And at that moment, I'm looking in his head, but at the same time, I'm behind him, and I'm standing behind him, seeing just his normal head as he's giving that speech. And then what happened was that thing went and it simply came out the back of his head, and it blew out the back of his head, and he fell down dead in front of all the people. And what was told to the people is that a shooter had got him. But God put me, I was behind the man, and I was also, go back and watch the prophecy, I was in front of him, and I saw that nothing entered him from the front. I saw that he was not hit from any angle by any shooter on any grassy knoll. Something in his head simply went, it came alive, and it just went, and it came out the back of his head at shocking velocity, ripping his head open, and he fell down dead in front of everyone, and he was carted away. And then later they came back and they told us that he was revived through the miracle of science. They told us that he had been, he had been brought back to life, wonderfully revived. That is what the Lord showed me about this mortal wound, deadly wound that was healed. And now for the second time we see us, the human beings, introduced into the story. The first time we entered the story was in verse 1, where it says, "The sands of the sea and the beast rose up out of the sea." The man who is going to operate as beast is going to come right up in the midst of us. The sea represents the tumultuous mass of us as we come and go, strive and pray and have dreams and hopes for our individual lives. And now it says here that the world, that's us now, no longer represented as the sea, marveled and followed after the beast. So this miracle takes place in front of people, and people will already love this man. I see people cycling at the very back of the Tour de France of this spiritual thing that God is doing, and they always come here and start screaming. I don't know why people, can't you just share what you have to share without 10 exclamation marks? Do you do this at your job? But anyway, they come and they begin screaming, "Nobody likes Obama. It can't be him because the Bible says the beast will be charismatic." Where does it say that? Where does it say that? Where does it say that he will be charismatic? It says that he is a man who understands dark sayings. It says that he will prosper with craft. But where did it ever tell you that he will be handsome and charismatic? You got that from the 700 Club. Just be honest. Just be honest that you were lied to before I was born. And now that I'm here and I look younger than you, you can't let go of the lies, because how dare I teach you anything by the Spirit of God? And so the world is going to love this man because this man is going to be covered with the powerful cologne of demons. Spiritual seduction. The women are going to go crazy for Obama when he comes back in his brand new form. They're not going to be able to stay away from him, crowding around him like the male Marilyn Monroe. And so the worshiping and marveling of the beast should not be misunderstood. Verse 4 says that the dragon also, who gives authority to the beast, this is Satan. So this is not just worshiping the beast, the dragon's messenger. This is also worshiping the dragon himself. It says that the dragon himself will get worship from people, and they will also worship the beast, and they will say, "Who is like the beast?" Listen to this. Who is able to make war with him? So nobody's going to be able to resist the rise of this kingdom. Nobody is going to be able to delay it, refuse it, to say it's a demonic prophecy, take it away. None of that is going to happen. Verse 5, and he was given a mouth speaking great things, blasphemies, and given authority to continue for 42 months. The way that people in this country count, they're constantly counting. I don't know how many times people have counted this 42 months. Do you see the man anywhere to start counting the months? No, it's Trump. No, it's this person. Then he opened his mouth to blaspheme even against God, to blaspheme his name, his tabernacle, and all those who dwell in heaven. This man is going to close church. I brought the prophecy here. I wish that I could just bring them easily to mind, but I brought them here and I said that it's almost coming to me, that no man will be allowed to worship upon pain of death. This is Islam. I don't know how, bowing 5-6 times a day, I don't know how you're going to do it. Man will not be allowed to worship upon pain of death. No visible worship, no praises lifted up to anyone who is not who Obama says is God. It will be utterly illegal to sing hymns, to lift up worship, to praise our God, to possess a Bible, the Bible you won't read now. How you will wish that you had spent some time in it. He will not only blaspheme against God, but he will blaspheme the name of the Lord, the house of the Lord, and even those seated in heaven. Now, why would he be angry with those seated in heaven? Because he's no longer allowed up there. It's already told us in Revelation chapter 12. Here, verse 7, war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought, but they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. So the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was cast to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So prepare for this beast system I'm talking about, to have the same citizens that were walking around in Noah's day marrying women. Have you not heard it said here that the fallen angels will be out in full force, marrying all the women who like that kind of thing? Mark you who sleep with them, male and female. You can find that in the prophecy called the Rainbow and Men. God says that you will die in the most horrible radioactive way possible. As I saw those people who dared to have sexual relations with the angels, for they will come, their radiating selves. They have been waiting for this moment. Why do you think the Bible says that even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light? They're not coming dull. They're coming glowed up. They will be using all the powers that got them banished in the old days to woo and wow people. I saw that people who engaged in any form of sexual activity, male and female, with these angels, they literally rotted. They got a cancer that was not a cancer. They literally became lit up by human flesh, the corruptible, touching that thing, the celestial body that carries its own glory, that is not terrestrial, of earth, us. They glowed with that deadly radiation. They cooked. They were worse than Fukushima times 10. That act caused them to be eaten up with radiation, and they died horribly painful deaths. Food for thought. So, verse 7, it was granted him to make war with the saints to overcome them. That's a full sentence. Then the saints will ask me, Celestial, all you ever talk about are heavy and horrible things. Is there anything that, is there anywhere that God will put his, you're hearing it. This is a worldwide prophecy. And it says that a portion of us will fall, for the beast has been granted. Do you know what it is to be granted? It means that it is allowed. A higher authority has given you leave to do what you are doing. God will not be asleep as a portion of us fall to this kingdom. for it is granted for him. And it says first, not even other tribes and tongues. That's the second part of verse 7. Read along with me. Who's falling first? Who will the beast fight first? Saints. To fight them and overcome them. Now the pressing question is why? Is it just because we're the only people that are worshiping a god? Don't Hindus have a god? Don't Muslims have a God that they always argue is the real God, that they say Allah is the real God? Why then does the beast go after Christians? Because Christians worship the true God. Christians are the only receptacles on earth that Jesus has told he will knock at the heart and enter in. He will be living in these vessels. And in order for Satan to do what he has to do, he simply has to cut down the number of the vessels. Isn't this what the radio controller people do? Or there's some people that work in some industry and they always say, oh no, there's too much interference. There's too much interference. Shh, on the line. We're getting too much interference. We Christians are the interference, the Spirit of the living God in us. When you lessen the interference by a hard onslaught, the rest will go into hiding. They will want to flee. They will not feel so perked up to be Christians anymore. They will abandon the faith. They will fall away. Some of them will be enticed by the trinkets of the beast system. Some of them will want to flee to the hills, but then they'll flee right back because they don't want to live with pumas and mountain lions and mosquitoes. They're going to come right back into the city and take the mark because they don't want to suffer anything for Christ. And that's because the majority of people are the unwise virgins. You might as well know that you are the unwise virgins. You who think that rapture is coming to take you away from basic Bible 101, that Jesse Duplantis and the group of jester clowns were too busy in these past 50 years to teach you. You that were told that you were too good to be tested. The beast system is the ultimate test of who is fit to enter those gates of pearl and walk on those streets of gold. This is the ultimate litmus test. Some will die loyal. There are people in this America, I have seen them. You can light those people on fire in the future. They will never deny Christ. I said that many of the revivals, and I'm not talking open air, gather around. No, I'm talking about kindling of the heart to serve Jesus Christ at all costs. A lot of nations will experience that burning upon the heart when they see how bold some people in this USA will be unto death. Unto death. This is the persecuted church right here. Laodicea flipped into the persecuted church. You have a little faith left and you have not denied my name. People here will die with boldness. They will put them on that execution pole, the Kamala Harris pole. The prophecy is called pogroms. If you want to know what this incoming ice queen is going to do to this nation, kindly go and watch the prophecy called pogroms. Her entire resume is there, prophesied to you years in advance before she ever ascends the seat. Notice how the false prophets have never touched that one because it seemed too far-fetched. But this is the place where far-fetched becomes fetched. There will be great faith here, a bright and a shining light that will come out through persecution. This is the home of the marchers. A lot of people in this nation will be martyred. So after he is warring with the saints and overcoming them, the Bible then says that he is granted authority over every tribe and tongue and nation. The devil will establish this thing on the 7 continents and cut it up into 10 pieces and put a crown, meaning somebody answering to the beast, on each one. And then it says, and who dwell on earth will worship him. All who dwell on earth will worship him, whose names have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. So right here in verse 8, we then see the hope. And verse 9 secures it by saying, if you have an ear, then hear. That means that if you are minded to listen and figure this out, then do so. Because we are also coming up to verse 16 that will say he causes all, a very controversial verse. It says every single person on this earth is going to worship him if their name is not in the book of life. Now here we are in 2024. How do we tell whose name is in the book of life? We have to bear in mind that Jesus is able to win souls even at the last minute. The thief on the cross proves that. But at the same time, the Bible says that by their fruit you will know them. So that means it's very easy judging by the fruit of what comes out of some people. You're being told that your pastor, dead or alive, is a false pastor and you're fighting for him. Which fruit is in you? Is it good fruit or rotten fruit? Are you not a man worshiper? Are you not an idolater? You would never fight for Jesus like this. You're actually fighting for Jesus, the Jesus of your papa. You're not actually fighting for direct contact Jesus. You want the God of Oyedepo. You want the God of Adeboye. You want the God of Chris White Suit Oyakilome. That's the God you want. You want to be associated with God through papa. So you will fight for the God of TB Joshua until hellfire. And it suits you. Continue. It's perfect for you. That's what you need. You need the God by proxy through the man of God. Because you found something to kneel in front of. Al-Flakau walking with his army of Freemason people that he just inducted into his coven. That's who you want. You need something visible to bow to. There are a lot of people now, I don't know why their names aren't Ishmael and Mahalalel, because they are exactly the same idol worshipping, wicked people of the Old Testament who hounded Prophet Samuel saying, give us a king, because they needed someone visual to idolize because God in heaven was not enough. They even told Samuel, we're not like the people around us. They all have kings. They wanted something, a man to lock eyes on who could ride a horse majestically and inspire them, because God was not a good enough king for them. You are those people's twin. And all I do is watch you and wonder if your name is in the Lamb's book of life. Here's the book right here. Here it is right here. The relationship, the food, the heat that will come upon you if you sit to give him your time and your heart to look in this book. No, we can only look in this book through Papa. So be it unto your soul. So, he who leads into captivity shall go into captivity. He who kills with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. This is twofold. The first obvious hope-giving fold is that the one who is behind all this wickedness shall himself reap judgment for it. That's why the Bible says, here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Saints, don't lose heart. Don't ever think that any devil or demon or spirit, vampire, even human beings who induct into the Freemasons or induct into these various clans, these various societies, these various lodges, water lodges, don't ever think that they will get away with it. Don't ever think that they will shed one drop of blood and God will let it go. Up to the devil himself, death and hell themselves will be poured into the lake of fire. And they will pay their pound of flesh for what they have done. But also God is speaking here of things that I have covered just recently and also in earlier years, that the one who takes captive will go into captivity themselves. America, you already know that punishment is upon you. Europe, a different punishment is upon you. God will cut down your numbers for the amount of blood that you spilled during the years when you were establishing yourself on the backs of other nations. Whoever has killed with the sword, God says, must be killed. God will balance all scales in this earth. Let no one come and accuse me of racism. It is not racist to read English and explain to you what it means. So Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb and spoke like a dragon. The Lord has never revealed to me any human identity of this person, but of course this person is of earth, for they rise up out of the earth where all men come from. And his attributes are that he shall have the appearance of one of peace. That is, his horns looking like a lamb. You know that a lamb is not even a full-grown sheep. You see them bouncing in the field, running around. Lambs are the cutest things. This man shall appear very harmless. And yet God says his mouth works like a dragon. He spoke like a dragon. People always think that means that he will speak with a loud tone. You just haven't watched enough of these old adventure movies the way I did growing up. For some reason, the dragon always sounds British. And they're highly intelligent, very conversational, consummate gentlemen until they become killers. This person who has the appearance of a lamb, harmless and also gentle and docile, is how he will seem. Nevertheless, has the kind of mouth that will say that all religions are hereby canceled, because the new religion that I'm about to lead you into is I'm about to make an image of the beast and compel all people to worship it, because I will exercise all the power of the first beast. This is Obama in his presence. Basically, the second beast is going to have the ability to be able to speak, make laws, legislate, and bring about rules as if he were the first beast doing it. That is who this person is. People speculate, they say it's the Pope. You know that you will never get that out of me. What God has not told me, I'm not saying. I will answer for everything that I have said. And so, verse 12 says that he will exercise all the authority of the first beast in his presence. The 2 of them will be very close, legislating as one. And he will cause the earth and all those who dwell in it to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. So then we have to go back to verse 8, for it says that all who dwell on the earth will worship him, beast, dragon, image, unless their names have been written in the book of life of the Lamb who was slain from the foundation of the world. So every time you come back to verse 8, hope springs. Hope springs. Because it always says all, but then there is the exemption of those whose names have been written in the book of life. So that means that not all, seemingly all, but for those whose names have been written. So even the mark, but not those whose names have been written. For how can you take this mark, which will bring upon your physical flesh the appearance of hideous sores? I've described those sores. I'm not going into it tonight. No way. Hideous stenching sores. How does one with hideous stenching sores, disfigurement all over, especially after 5 months of stinging by the locusts that have sharp teeth and hair like women, how is that same person entering in through the gates of the Lamb, singing through the 12 gates of the New Jerusalem? God's remnant is preserved right here in verse 8. So all who he will decide to have in it, that is the hope. Verse 13, he performs great signs so that he even makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. This is the miracle of the prophet Elijah, a great miracle, a very, very, very great sign that will be very, very, very instrumental in convincing all the very, very wrong people who will think that these 2 beasts represent God's kingdom. This will further solidify it for them. For the Bible says that this man will have power to deceive with great signs that he shall perform in the sight of the beast. Do you see how every time it's saying in the sight of the beast, in the presence of the beast? So who do you think is giving the second beast his power? It's the first beast. And it says that he will tell those who dwell on earth to make an image of the beast who was wounded by the sword and lived. So there is an image that is going to go up in this earth. Verse 15, he was granted power to give breath to this image, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. So then it's not going to be a polite declining not to worship this image. It's going to be a Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego death situation if you refuse to bow to this thing and not worship it. Verse 16, he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or their foreheads. This isn't even worth saying, but the English is so clear. I'm not sure why people think injectables into the arm that will never be put into the forehead, at least to us who understand what injectables are, was the mark. A great furor arose in America, but then I should have known better, because this is the same nation that saw La Palma out there in the wind exploding and then put everywhere on the prophecy boards that La Palma was going to sink into the sea, cause a massive tidal wave backlash that would then come and engulf the entire East Coast, and then the tsunami prophecy of the Lord would be fulfilled. And America, you make me so tired sometimes. Just disappointed and tired. Anything is plausible to you. The thing is over there in Europe. By how many miles, we don't know. But the thing is going to forget about drowning Europe, fall into the sea, and then you say, that's the Bible verse that says a mountain will be thrown down from the sea. When we throw something, is it the same thing as something submerging? Something submerges and then we say it was thrown? Because the Bible says that the mountain burning with fire was thrown from up. La Palma wasn't up. It was on earth. So then how did 2 + 2 = 22? But then look at where we are. We're here. It's always 22. It's never 4. And so, this mark, I've only seen it once. I saw it in 2021. And it reminds me of a cigarette burn. If it's not a cigarette burn, sorry, a cigar burn. If it could be said that a cigar burn can be alive, then that is what that thing looked like to me. It looked like a cigar burn. It also looked like, at the same time, a seal. Now, you know these cigars that men buy, there's some kind of seal on it, right? There's some kind of round seal that will have a fluffy kind of edge. And I suppose it means the cigar is very good, right? So it's round with maybe roughly edges. And then they put that on the cigar. Or you can imagine this. Imagine candle wax poured and then a signet ring pressed into that wax to make a shape. That is what it looked like. I did not get to see it up close because when I saw it, the revulsion in my spirit and the way I saw it was, people were greatly cursing me. What's new? In 2021, when I was bringing forth the Lord's prophecy concerning the injectable solution and all that, and they were adamant that I was a liar in bringing forth the words that God gave me, saying that that injectable solution was actually a precursor to what the time of the mark would be. That this is a way to see who will take anything, because the time is coming where they will give it and many people will sign up for the mark simply because of the benefits. It will be loaded with benefits. You will be top tier citizens for a while, those who take it unwisely. And so, in the middle of one of those bombardment sessions, after I had posted a message online, the Lord showed me a woman who was a part of the cursing brigade. And she had children, but she had this one son that she loved. And what I just saw was an open eye vision, middle of the afternoon. I saw an open eye vision of this guy get home wearing a baseball cap. And he called out, "Hey, Ma," and she called out from inside the house, called him by his name. And then he came in. You know when these overgrown tall boys, the guy's 21, but he's built 6'7" and all that, right? He walked in, a young man, and he was wearing a baseball cap, and he walks in and calls her, and then she comes in wiping her hands on a dishcloth and saying, hey, what's up? And then he whips it off excitedly. And then from at least my long range distance, I see what looks like a very angry and ugly round cigarette burn that was still and at the same time gave the impression of being alive and moving. Very, very much revulsion when you see it. It's not moving. It looked like a hot branding iron had been pressed into that boy's forehead. And when that woman saw it, she had crystal clear 1,000,000,000% imported Havana pure understanding of the difference between something that goes into your arm or even in between your veins like the junkies do, and something that you can wear. I don't know what kind of ironic pain made that boy not even to choose the right hand one. He chose it right in the middle of his forehead. And he was so proud. And he said, Mama, what do you think? And the one thing I gave that woman credit for is she had the sense, knowing that her son had gone to the side whereby these that take it will be the killers of their family members. She instantly knew, for she was a Christian, arrogant and proud though she was, she instantly knew that there was a permanent divide between her and this boy she loved so much. And she looked at him and she told him, excuse me, please. She told him that she thought it looked wonderful. And he was nervous because he knew his mom was a Christian. He said, you really mean it, Mom? You really mean it? And she said, oh, honey, you know what? I don't know why I've been hesitating. I think I'm going to go and get mine tomorrow. And his heart was pacified, and he went upstairs to his room. That woman had the sense not to let one tear drop in front of that child. But I knew, looking at the vision, that by nighttime, she was going to be out in the hills. She would wait until she got to the bushes and then cry for that boy she loved. She looked at him. She knew exactly what that was. She realized that, oh, it's not La Palma time. That thing on that boy's head, it was hideous. Alive but flat. Living but flat, like someone had put a hot cigar or a branding iron into the middle of his head. She didn't show, she just smiled at him and she said, oh, honey, you know what? I don't know why I've been hesitating. I think that I need to get one. And he was like, you know, Mama, because it comes with this and it comes with this. And he was so excited. Just a typical Gen Z. Do first, think later. Do first, think last. She didn't let anything show. Something that I tell you all here all the time. Why must you wear your entire library of emotions on your face? Why must it come out of your mouth? Why do you have to make 83 videos about your next move? Who are you in the demographic of Christian maturity? When the Bible tells us, be wise as serpents, gentle as doves. This tongue, life and death. Those who love it will eat its fruit. The wise will understand. And so that is what happened. That is what I saw. I saw it once. I've never seen it again. And that one time was one too many. Bless the King's holy name, Jesus Christ. Verse 17, and no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark, excuse me, please, or the name of the beast or the number of his name. 3 ways. 3 ways to affiliate yourself with that time, with that kingdom. You can get the mark, the name of the beast, the number of his name. But this verse 17 is just saying that's how you buy and sell. So the verse does not necessarily stipulate that the name of the beast or the number of his name is also the same as getting the mark. It does not necessarily stipulate that, nor does it necessarily not say that. Because there will be people, I've seen them, they will work the system and they will still be able to buy food. I've told you that there will be people, just a moment, please. There will be people living in the midst of this society looking like they have all their shots. I don't actually mean shots, but yes, just the way people used to fake it back then. There will be people living like they've had everything up to date. They will be living under the coverest of covers. They will be living under the coverest of covers. I shared the dream. It's called A Look Ahead, that I said that I actually saw myself making contact with one of these guys. God just showed me a dream where there were people inside the system who knew how to get everything, because the system still had a few leeways. It will take time. AI isn't ready to rule everybody yet, right? So there were still human beings in the system that knew how to chip the system, fool the system, and they were offering to people who had the right money and the right means all the trappings of being beasted up so that you could still continue life. And I saw that people were doing that, and yet at the same time, the society was so highly lifted up, and at the same time, God was showing me the decline of that system. This system will be touted. It will be so cancer healing, so this, that, but eventually, because we will come to a time where it says, this unclean, unrighteous one will break covenant. He will make a treaty with many and then break it. And at the time he breaks it, his true nature will come out. That's when society will start to, all the utopia that they make, all the modern mechanized, it will start to break down. Remember that this prophecy here of Revelation 13 cannot be read without an understanding of what Daniel was talking about. And Daniel speaks about the kingdom of the iron and the clay, that it eventually, it does not deteriorate in Daniel's vision. It is summarily destroyed by the stone that comes from heaven. That is the coming of Jesus' kingdom. Jesus will come and bring that whole nonsense to an end. It tells us very clearly that he's going to fight against his enemies with the sword that is in his mouth. In another place, it says he will destroy them by the breath that is in his mouth. Do you know that Jesus is capable of releasing a heat that will have all the nukes really taking a notebook and learning from the best? That he can breathe out a heat that will simply cook all life. This is human life and even Nephilim life, the entire Nephilim armies that Satan is brewing up. Destroy with the sword of his mouth, and then also in another place it says with the breath of his mouth. What is a nuclear blast compared to Jesus puffing out gently across a field of every creature from the Lord of the Rings waiting to fight against him? The giants come back, they're all ready, and then he just blows across that mass. This person is the person that people are writing disrespectful things about on Facebook. And so, oh yes, I was talking about people who will be able to integrate themselves for a while. That's verse 17. That's something to have an understanding of. Okay. And then the last verse here in Revelation 13 is verse 18. It says, here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. So this 666 that people always say, it's Satan, it's Satan. It's not. It's actually the number of a human man who will be subsumed, taken over from the inside and filled with the essence, the very presence and life of Satan himself. As Christ carried the life of our God within him, for he was God, Satan will be indwelling this person. So for a time, calculating his number, but now God has revealed his name. So here we are. Just a moment, please. You have heard the full prophecy that is called The Revolution Will Be Televised, Rise of the Beast. This is a part 2 of a 2-part prophecy that was honing in on the nation of Kenya. The Lord speaking to the nation of Kenya on 2 occasions, June 28th and June 30th, 2024, speaking to their immediate revolution that is happening, that is everywhere, being televised as we speak, but at the same time widening it that all nations may gaze at the future that is waiting for all 7 continents, all 10 crowns that will be resting upon 10 horns. May the Lord increase his word in the hearts of those who are hearers. I'm fully aware that not everyone is a hearer. I'm fully aware that not everyone is for this platform. That is because as God deepens it, not everyone will be able or want to enter into those deeper waters. And that decision, it must rest with each person. I'm not going to stand with anyone and answer with you in tandem for your soul. Every soul shall account for how it lived, what it heard, what it did with what it heard, its faith. There are people who come to this platform and say, question everything. Show me that Bible verse. Show me the Bible verse that says, question everything. And then I'll show you Thessalonians, I think it's 5:20, that says, do not despise prophesying. It says to hold fast to what is good. Is it not good for the Lord to tell us the truth? Where does it say question everything? That's your modern perception. That's the modern lies that you actually want to approach matters of faith with unbelief. The unbelief of this generation is so loud and so proud. The way that people are so proud to be unbelieving. I'm not buying this. You're an unbeliever. You have no faith. For these matters are apprehended by the Spirit through faith. So it's either that you will stay corrupted or you will be brought into truth by the Spirit. There is no middle ground. And many people have gotten it wrong and continue to get it wrong. And I myself am content that the ones I was sent to find shall allow themselves to be found, not by me, but by the Holy Spirit. I'm Celestial, and this is the Master's Voice Prophecy Blog. God bless you, and I will continue with these messages. Thank you to those of you who support this platform. You are under absolutely no obligation. Thank you for your support. And please do not interact with scammers, okay? Please do not interact with anyone contacting you and telling you to please send this and that, and they'll pray for you. Please send this and that, and then you will be helping the orphans. I do not own an orphanage, and I never contact people to ask them for anything. All I ask here is for some of your time and your focus for your own benefit, and your family's benefit, not my own. So please stay away from that. If you do decide that you would like to support the blog, please always make sure that you have read the directions. If the video you are reading does not have directions under it, please do not proceed until you have looked under a video that has distinct directions, and then you follow those. If you have not followed the directions, please do not take any action at all. I would sincerely appreciate it. So God bless you. And until I see you again, goodbye.